call to order, adoption of agenda, adoption of minutes, 3.1.
Special meeting of council held May 3rd, 2021, that the minutes be adopted.
Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? 3.2, regular meeting of council held May 5th, 2021.
Your worship, Don, before he left, advised me that this is an error. In fact, this May 5th meeting minutes have already been adopted.
Okay, 3.3, special meeting of council held June 10th, 2021.
The minutes be adopted.
Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? 3.4, regular meeting of council held June 16th, 2021.
That the minutes be adopted.
I just have one discrepancy. We received a letter from, you guys received a letter from the lawyer on what my duties were for that.
Should we not second it before we discuss?
Second.
Second. Okay.
So, you guys received your emails prior to that, so just giving the public a heads up. All in favor? 3.5, special meeting of council held June 23rd, 2021.
That the minutes be adopted.
Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Special meeting for council held June 30th, 2021.
That the minutes be adopted.
Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Special meeting of council held July 9th, 2021.
That the minutes be adopted.
Second?
You
Second? Are you seconding it?
Yes, I am.
Discussion? And you guys passed a motion on council on the fire department doing a slip and slide. I want that revised to, and necessary equipment to make that happen, which means hoses, trucks.
Can I?
Go ahead.
It was brought to my attention that because it involves children, should people be,
Signing the waiver?
no, should they do background check on people who are in charge
It's the
of
volunteer.
supervising children? Well, yeah,
They all have credit checks.
they all have a thorough background check.
Yeah, because they're in the medical field. Most of them are.
But do we have a policy in place or anything that?
Not that I'm aware of.
If we don't have a policy in place, how do we know that they've had police checks?
So we're talking about events where involves underage children.
Well, we've held
Yeah.
events for Jamboree, and we've had volunteers, which is mostly the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be probably the same people.
Yeah, I haven't done a conclusive, look at your policies, but I suspect you don't have a policies, particularly in regards to that. I mean, we can look at what sort of mechanisms and I guess precautionary measures that perhaps should be put into place that could be adopted as sort of a standard resolution, when you have events of this nature.
Well, I would hope the parents would be with them. It wouldn't be just sending their 3-year-old to the party either. So you want to make a motion? To do a policy?
Oh, sure. Make a motion to have a policy regarding background checks for minors in village events.
Volunteers.
Okay, I understand the intent of the motion.
I'll second that.
And that one with all the equipment as well.
So your worship, you want
Well, they
You
need the
want the
hoses.
amendment, the minutes amended
Yeah.
to add wording. Can you give me that wording again?
Well, they need the equipment, right? They need the equipment to make it happen,
Right,
and it's not in there, so.
okay.
All in favor on the two motions? Okay. Introduce some late items, so we have this 20.
Your worship, we have 3 late items. One correspondence which was received after the agenda was printed from the Rotary Club of Dawson Creek, personally extending an invitation to have you join us for our 2021 Rotary Fall Fair Parade. To be taking place on Friday, August 13th. Floats will begin to assemble at the Dawson Co-op parking lot at 9 with the parade kicking off at 10. So please email to register and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So I'm not sure what the practice has been. Have we participated in that? Do we have
Yeah, we
a
do.
float?
We do practice, or go in it.
So if we accept the invitation, we can certainly, email them back. The second late item is the OH&S manual. Okay, this is the document here, the OH&S manual and companion policies. So I can briefly overview that, where we're at, next steps, what's been done, what's remaining to be done. But that is the second late item. And the third late item, I don't have paper for it, but it's for the UBCM convention. The UBCM convention is September 13th to the 17th. It's virtual. Ordinarily would be in Vancouver. The registration fee for members is $475 per delegate. So I just need a little bit of direction on who's interested, who will be sort of attending virtually, so that we can get you people registered. We're not registered at this point in time.
Did you get back to Don on your questions he asked you?
What was
About the UPCM, he asked you if there was anything to do.
any ministries?
Anything that you wanted to touch on,
Yes, I did,
and you did?
and I said no.
Right?
No, I can't.
Okay. On the ministry issue, usually around this time, because I asked the staff, I don't think we've received anything today. Usually around this time, the provincial government sends out a notification to all municipalities saying if you want to meet with ministers, please indicate which minister and what the topic will be. Haven't seen that yet. So when that comes, we can certainly revisit the issue, or you can tell me now. I think, Your Worship, you've already told me you'd like to meet with the Minister of Transportation and Highways, I believe.
Yeah, and Adrian Dix over the hospital to make sure that there is going to be youth beds put into the psych ward, not just psych wards for adults, because we only have 6 youth beds in Prince George from Hyde all the way to Fort Nelson. So we need more youth beds in that area.
Anyway, so I'm not sure when do you usually deal with late items? At the end of the
Yeah.
correspondence?
Yeah,
At the end of the agenda?
yeah.
At the end of correspondence?
After delegation, we usually will. Unfinished business arising from minutes, and right after that.
Okay.
Public hearing none, delegation, Suzanne Bull, Kathleen Conley, send their regrets due to the weather, can't make it. Unfinished business arising from the minutes, new business.
Your Worship, this is, as you know, there's been a ministerial order, a second one issued by the province in regards to the by-election to be held on September the 18th. And basically, this is the ministerial order that's been set out here. It deals with issues of the making available the provincial voters list, establishing a special voting opportunity at the CEO's discretion, permit voting of all eligible electors under the act to be done by mail ballot, and if they wish to do that, and to permit electors to make an oral rather than a written declaration this is primarily driven by COVID. So really what the CEO, the Chief Election Officer, needs is just a council motion to adopt these four stipulations. It's just a formality, really.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? 8.2 budget amendments by bylaw.
Your Worship, I'm going to ask the CFO to briefly overview this. We've reviewed the budget for the by-election, and I'll ask Mr. Chapman to briefly overview.
Thank you. Previously, at the budget when it was adopted, there's $3,000 put into the budget for hospital elections. And at that time, the corporate officer and CAO served most of the roles necessary, except for the poll clerks. There were additional costs, but they took a small stipend to do the extra work during the weekend and late Friday, and the advanced poll, and on Saturday. With their absence, we, as you know, Mr. Lindsay has been hired to run the election, as well as additional costs that we had incurred for him to come back and forth. And there's a small allowance for legal costs in case there is any. Hopefully, there'll be nothing. We anticipate the total by-election cost of $25,680. We already spent $1,328. So it brings the total cost up to $27,000. Then you take out the budget already passed of $3,000, and so that requires a budget amendment of $24,000 to bring us up to a total budget of $25,000 for the election.
Question. When we provide the budget, does that come from other things that we haven't spent, or does it come from?
Excellent question. Right now, it would come from funds not used in operations. There is a larger budget amendment coming forward to accommodate, myself, Mr. Nason, and Don. So there is going to be a budget amendment. They will do all the funding at that point.
Okay.
But that's why it's vacant there.
Any seconder? Not one. All in favor? Okay. 8.3, Mayor McKinney's committee appointment changes. So these are the new ones, right, Don? These are the new ones?
Yes.
So, Ryan, you as an alternate on the school's conflict, did you work for the school district?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, so we'll move that to Counselor Snap.
What was that?
The school is a conflict for Marlene,
Oh,
so we're giving it to you.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't have anybody else besides me to take it. And these are the new.
And I'm just the alternate, or
Yes.
am I?
No, you're the alternate. And then I want the regional district back, but I'm sure you guys won't give it back to me until we have a full count.
So really, Your Worship, all we need is a motion to receive these appointments for information.
Yeah, but I want the directorship back for the regional district.
I'm
Because
not ready to make that.
Well, because I've twice now, I've had to send you guys an email stating over the voting, because that was not brought to me or my attention, or the voters' attention. For the seniors, it was put on the website. Do you remember that?
To be honest, no, I don't recall.
It was the voting for at the Encana Center for the medical for the village people to sign or to vote for.
Oh, right.
And that was brought up at the regional district, and that was not brought
That's
forward to me.
that's the AAP process the regional district has done.
So I feel Councillor Smith is not doing the job as a director.
Well, Your Worship, in regards to that specific appointment, I'm advised that on April the 7th, there was a motion, the council appoint Councillor Smith as the PRRD director and Council Hubert as the alternate director.
Yes.
So that is a motion that would have to be basically rescinded, or there would have to be a new motion put forward, because this has to be a council appointment. The rest of these positions can be filled at the mayor's discretion, but the regional
Yeah,
director.
that's, but I'm asking for the regional district director to back. I'm putting the motion on. Can I have a second?
An original week, I don't know.
I did my job, I brought my stuff back. I brought the stuff back that needed to be brought back to the room. And you cannot say I didn't. You were kept in the loop at all times when I was the director. All in favor?
We haven't really seconded.
No second.
She said sure.
No, I didn't.
I thought you said sure.
I say sure.
Okay, can I have a second? No? Okay. Fine.
Motion dies for lack of a second motion.
Well, we'll just wait till we get a full council. Does anybody see any correspondence? There was on the action list, Blair, Marlene, wanted to know about the training, what the ministry to draft a letter of no council wanted Blair to come and talk about the training, and he didn't come. Council would like the fire chief to come to the next council meeting to discuss the training. Is that possible? Can I get a seconder? Because it's still on the actions list.
That's true.
You want to discuss training? On May 19th, you want to discuss training with Blair. Training for, I don't know, you wanted to
I'll second it.
talk about training. You were concerned what they were paying, what they weren't paying?
Oh,
If they were paying,
we
we were
were
not
in depth. Right, yes.
So for clarification, Your Worship, the motion is to invite the fire chief to attend the next council meeting in August to
Yeah.
discuss matters related to training.
Yeah. Might as well get that off the action.
Moved and seconded.
Second it?
I second it.
All in favor? So this crisis digital, so 3 digital suicide crisis prevention hotline, is that for this area too? That is 65. 9.11.
Fire chief reports.
No, it's 3-digit suicide crisis prevention hotline. I'm just wondering if that's in this area because I'm pretty sure that it was brought up at the regional district.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, what item are you on?
9.11.
65. It's a letter of support from Colwood for the 988 for the suicide prevention
Yes,
crisis.
yes, but is this in our area as well?
I'm not aware.
You know,
No, I don't believe so. This is a new initiative, I believe. They have this in the States.
mhm.
a 3-digit 911 number that you dial for suicide and crisis prevention. It's another 911 kind of number, right?
Yeah.
Can you, I have a motion on the floor for you to phone Sean at the regional district to see if there's any information on this that they would be bringing forward? Because, I need to know those things.
Sean?
Yeah. Dawn at the regional district.
Sorry, is it Dawn or Sean or?
Sean Dolan?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the CIO.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. So you don't go through the letters individually, you basically just
Take
pass
whatever
one
ones.
omnibus motion for all of
Yeah.
them? Oh, okay. I was wondering why you'd skip down to 911.
Yeah. All in favor?
Is that a direction or a motion?
Yeah,
I said it was a motion.
Okay,
Seconded?
sure.
Carried.
And then there's Northern BC Tourist Association regarding Great North Circle routine signage project update.
Yes, your worship, there is, if you go to that letter,
Mhm.
there are some questions in there that they're asking. I noted that, 78, page 78. If you look, there's a number of questions.
Yeah, I emailed this to you.
Second to last page of the letter. Do you have any current or planned signage projects happening this year in your community? What are some of the biggest wayfinding signage challenges? Who are the key contacts in your community that would be essential to hear from as the team gathers stories about your community? Would your community or electoral areas find benefit in the master signage plan to support your wayfinding?
And that would be Les.
Yes.
And that would be our welcome sign and the village, or the museum was talking about some kind of signage they wanted. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You want to speak on that?
They want an electronic sign though, that was just posting things.
Yeah.
And that would be within the village, that wouldn't be for tourism. Actually, this is speaking to tourism.
But if they're gonna pay for it, why wouldn't we have something for tourism?
Yes, exactly. And I would have brought this to Les, I did want to give him a heads up. I have emails that are sent to me and they disappear very quickly. And I don't know why.
Email letter sent to you from?
To my iPad, the village iPad, and then they just disappear. And I can't retrieve them.
They're not in archives?
I can't find them anywhere. Yeah.
Mine seem to disappear too. That's why I still use McKinney at Shaw.
So you want me to make a point about the museum requesting an electronic sign to be located within the village? No.
No, they can still look after that, but I was saying that the signage that the museum was speaking about with the village was an electronic sign that they wanted to put somewhere within the village main street. It isn't for signage for tourism out on the highway. And this is speaking to signage for tourism,
Right.
which would be the highway, right?
Could we have our CAO reach out to Les to bring him those questions and get some feedback from Les, what he thinks or what the museum thinks?
Yes.
Les is the
Curator.
museum fellow? Sure.
And you're making that motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Anybody see anything else? Stars? But we already donated to them. System.
Yeah.
Resolutions none, bylaws none, administration report, CAO reports.
Okay, CAO report. So this is my first report for you folks. So, CAO Page 85. Okay, so I'll go through it. Really, a couple things. Of course, I'll have one of these on every regular council agenda, but I also would like to, Mayor and I talked about this, I intend to do one every Friday. Just basically, you know, encapsulating some of the things, not everything I've been working on, but some things that I think you should be updated on, and I'll send that out at the close of business every Friday. And, you know, if you have any questions, give me a call. But it'll basically be like this, and, you know, in terms of things you maybe need to know. So that I intend to do that every Friday, regardless of whether there's a council meeting next week. In terms of this report, just a few things. Outstanding statutory requirements for filing with the ministry. We still have not completed the 2020 annual report. It's very close. And, you know, statutorily, it should be completed by the 30th of June and filed with the ministry. So we're a bit behind on that, but we're close, and Doug and the staff are working on it, so it's our intention to bring it forward to the meeting in August. Now, you also have to, though, put an ad in the paper and a notice on the notice board saying that it's your intention to consider the annual report, and the public can be invited to attend and comment on it before it's adopted.
So should we make a motion for you to do that
Nope.
now instead of
No.
in the meeting?
No, I don't
As
need a
soon as
motion.
they get it done?
Yeah, no, well, that's the plan. It'll be on the agenda in August. Financial statistics report and the taxation statistics report. I believe we filed the LGDE tax forms today, Doug?
We filed letter C,
Letter C.
the
which is-
taxation statistics report.
Okay, the statistics. So we're almost there on that as well. And ordinarily, that has to be in 30th of June
Yes.
as well? Okay. So we're making progress on the statutory requirements, which really should be one of the first priorities. Second item, amendments to the 2021 municipal budget. You just approved a budget amendment for the by-election. There will be others coming, okay, several others coming. Maybe in an omnibus budget amendment or something, but broken down in terms of, and this isn't unusual. I mean, you adopt a budget in May, but certain things happen, there's priorities that emerge, projects that come up, and circumstances change. So usually around this time of year, maybe a little later, you adopt a budget amendment to basically make that correction. And, you know, in the short term, the funding comes out of accumulated reserves or surplus or contingency. But then, you know, over time, you sort it out in terms of other categories or reallocation of funds. So expect to see a budget amendment series in August. Peace Haven Manor. So, let me just get my forms here. Peace Haven Manor. You'll recall this one. We have been advised that the NWWC has contracted Knapp Enterprises to do the cleaning of the debris left by the fire at the former Peace River Haven in Pooskookie. Knapp is waiting for the hazmat demolition report to come, but will soon be applying to the village for the required permits to do the work. We are expecting to have the work completed by the beginning of August. However, I just got off the phone. This is the executive director of the North Wing Wellness Center. I just got off the phone with Barry, CEO of Knapp, and there have been some delays at their end. He will be contacting you to discuss their process and inform the village of when the completion will take place. So I phoned up the fellow from Knapp, which is quite a reputable company. And what he advised me is that because there's hazardous materials on site, they have to do a hazmat pre-demolition hazard assessment. And they're taking samples. I talked to him last week. He said they're taking samples this week, or they should be. They need 2 to 3 weeks to complete the report, submit it to WorkSafe. And at this point in time, they're anticipating their scheduling to be hopefully on site to start the cleanup the first part of September, the 7th to the 10th of September, to be on site, to be cleaned, with the site to be cleaned and graded by September. And that's kind of the best case scenario. Okay, now you may recall that you folks passed a remedial action cleanup order some time ago, and basically you stipulated that at the time that certain works were to be completed by July 31st, which was conduct a hazard materials testing, and as well as apply for and obtain a demolition permit. So you said do that by the end of July.
These two didn't.
Pardon me?
These two didn't, but it was voted by other people.
Okay, well, anyway, that was the motion. And then the second part of the motion was that by September 31st, we wanted to see the fire damaged building removed by demolishing all structures, clearing the property, disposing of all removed materials, and remediate the site by filling in any holes. So as it sits right now, the latest advice, and I've already alerted the building inspector to expect an application for a demolition permit, but at the end of the day, they have hazmat requirements, reports, WCB regulations. They're hoping to be on site the 7th to the 10th to start that process, and have it cleaned up in September.
That's excellent news, at least it's getting cleaned up.
Yeah, you know, they appeared very serious, you know, both Isaac Hernandez as well as this fellow from NAP. But there's insurance issues which has caused part of the delay. Okay, number 4, application for a development variance permit. This is for property on the strata property on Elevator Road. You folks may be familiar with it. It's an application to construct an accessory building, a cover for the property owner's motorhome. So we have spent a couple of meetings with the applicant, or the proponent for the applicant, and I think we're moving to a place where hopefully there'll be a resolution. There was a previous council motion, I understand, to support in principle, well, to support what they want, what the homeowner wanted to do, which was to construct the accessory building before
The lot line.
the lot line is consolidated. And there was support in principle to do that, subject to some legal agreements, undertaking, covenants, letters of credit, that type of stuff. So we met with the proponent for the applicant, outlined that. It's not a development variance permit, because that actually amends use and it would amend use, right? So it's not permitted. But the lawyers said, well, there's a number of ways you can do it. You can rezone the zone, you can do a rezoning for a site-specific change to that particular parcel to permit it. You can do a temporary use permit to permit it for that site-specific parcel, all of which would require a zoning amendment, which is public hearing, bylaws, quite a process. Or they can consolidate the lot, and my understanding from the agent, from the proponent for the owner, is that there's complications with that. Or there was a fourth alternative, and that's that, you know, if the building inspector would be prepared to issue a building permit with our assurances that there would be legal agreements and covenants in place, that would be another mechanism. I've spoken to the building permit, the building inspector. He's saying yes, he would do that if there were appropriate assurances. We have to get an agreement drafted up by the lawyers and a covenant and a letter of credit and all that sort of stuff. But the building inspector wouldn't, you know, basically stand in the way of that if we had that in place. But there's still, we've asked the proponent to go back and have a further discussion with the surveyor, because we have two different survey plans on file. One showing, you know, basically the lot, the strata lot, totally half divided property and building and yard, and the other one just shows the strata unit, the building, but the yard is common property. So even the proponent was quite surprised when he saw that. So he's back clarifying with the surveyor, but we also let him know that we would explore with the building inspector whether or not the building, you know, at the end of the day, if it's too complicated to consolidate the lot, we said, we'll check with the building inspector whether he would be prepared to proceed with legal agreements in place. And I just met with the building inspector today, and he is agreeable to that, if it comes to that. But we're expecting to hear from Mr. Downey. He was going to check with the surveyor. So we'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Council action item, council action item list. I just circulated this, it was in the agenda package. I have circulated this, the color version, because it's easier to read. I think we discussed it. Is there, you know, my reason for putting this on is not to go through each of these. A lot of these are completed, but is there anything we're missing?
The PC joint use agreement, has that gone to the lawyer and is that back?
No, I don't believe anything has happened on that.
That is the school.
Yeah,
So-
I don't think anything has happened on that.
So maybe we need to get on that one too, because if someone wants to use the kitchen,
Yeah.
right?
And did we not want to have a meeting with them? Because even the janitor room, the room that they're using is the coat room. And if they're doing some construction, are they going to add a
So
janitor?
we were supposed to have the plans brought to us, so they were gonna add on.
Yeah, and we haven't had any meetings or discussions. So it hasn't been signed.
No.
Is there an agreement in draft? There is a draft agreement that's been
Yeah,
put
somewhere in
together?
your office.
Okay.
But can you also set up a meeting with Chad Anderson to come and tell us what he's gonna do with what's happening with construction and what's all gonna be in detail of the new add-on?
This is to the school?
No, it's to School District 59.
There's history there. We added on the community center, the gym, we paid for it. It's on their property, whatever, and we put together, we have an agreement, and our library's in there where they
Yeah.
are, yeah.
Okay.
But I thought it was done and signed, or done, not signed. Because
We raised
I
this
go
at
to
the
the
staff, we raised this at the staff meeting today, and I got the impression, I'll go back and ask again, but.
I think I saw it. But it was because it had to be rewrote because it was the library first, not the village.
Okay.
So it had to be the village first, then the library. And that's why we wanted to change.
Okay, I'll check into that. So no motion is required for that one. And finally, the 2021-2025 capital and special projects. So this list here, which I handed out, really, it's just for your information. And I didn't dump this on you expecting decisions. So first off, Doug and I have been working on this both from, okay, so where are we at with these projects? I've been talking a lot with Blair, with the staff. I've been talking to Doug about the budget, and we still have to go through a process of looking at the budget just to ensure that everything's in there, including sufficient resources for some of these new projects. But there's basically two categories. Page one is, these are the I think there's 18 projects here that were approved in your 2021 budget. Okay, those were approved in whenever you did your budget approval in April. You turn the page, these are additional projects which are currently underway, but they're not included in the project spreadsheet, which was approved in April. Again, not necessarily unusual because there's some things that have come up in the interim.
Well, Chris talked about the lagoon project.
Yep. Yeah.
And we put money away for that.
Yeah, not specifically. I don't know if there's an appropriation for the lagoon, but certainly it's an active project, but it's not currently, it wasn't on your list that you approved in April. That's my point.
Oh, so you missed it. Because we did approve it. Because he did talk about it.
Yeah, well, anyway, what I've tried to do is make best efforts to encapsulate all of the projects which are currently in progress in some way, shape, or form, okay? And the shaded ones are the ones where you folks have asked Urban Systems to sort of put together a proposal to manage, to stick handle the project. And a number of them, several of them have been completed. There's quite a few, the shaded ones, where Urban Systems, as I said earlier, has submitted a proposal to do the work, but it has not been awarded.
So the solid waste RFP,
Yep.
we decided to do it monthly because it was cheaper than doing it yearly. And that was discussed in February as well.
Well, what Urban Systems has submitted is a proposal to draft a request for, an RFP, a request for proposals, to send it out to the market to ask for, to see whether there'd be any companies that would be prepared to do solid waste collection.
Yeah, because there's Blue Sky just started up and that's what we told Chris.
So
Ask them.
the proposal amount that they've submitted is for $3,200. And if that were approved now, we would give them authorization to proceed with drafting the RFP, and then the RFP would be issued and for appropriate companies to come forward if they wish. So this is for your information at this point in time.
But if you have a meeting with Edward on Friday,
We do.
should we not go ahead and approve the ones that you have highlighted?
You could do that. That would not be my advice at this point in time, only because we haven't had a thorough opportunity to review
And
the
to-
budget
And to bring it back to us and look at
with all of these projects in.
But we've had this information, Barbara. We've had all this stuff already brought to us several times. While we were doing the budget. We ticked it all off. Our lagoons is the most important thing right now. That always has been my most important thing. That needs to get done before it starts to frost in the ground.
That one, we have approved. The geotech, the hydrotechnical assessment, we have approved that one. We've given Urban Systems the go-ahead to engage a geotech, because that is a significant liability.
Big time.
But my suggestion on this would be that we have a special little session with council, with Doug, with Blair, and myself. Where after we meet with Urban Systems, because I'd have to be certain that I'm on the same page with Urban Systems as well, because when I came here, there was a stack of proposals like this. We're meeting on Friday. My suggestion is to have a session with council. And it needn't be any more than about an hour and a half, I don't think. Basically, it's a priorities check-in. Okay, we will go through this list in detail on each of the items, and we can make decisions, or we can get feedback from you, I guess, on a couple of things. One, do we have it all? Are we missing anything? And two, because again, you know,
We are.
we're having some challenges in terms of connecting the dots and all the, it's not that the documentation isn't there, but the people aren't there, right? Who had a lot to do with this. But is everything there? And secondly, get a sense of the prioritization, because there's a lot on this list. It's very ambitious. And given the resources we have, I mean, a lot of this would fall to Blair. This is in his bailiwick, and I asked him today, does he have a level of comfort that if we just snapped our fingers and said, yep, proceed with all of this, would he be in a position, is there a level of comfort? And I said, you don't have to answer the question now, but this is one that we're going to be pursuing. So my suggestion would be to have a session with council, the sooner the better. And I know I don't like calling special meetings any more than you folks do, because I end up having to do the minutes, and I'd rather be doing stuff like this than minutes. But if we have this session next week with council, we'll be informed by the information with Urban Systems we had on Friday. We can have the meeting with council. Then I would, you know, perhaps suggest one special meeting in early August, rather than waiting till the 18th of December to come back and say, great. So we're recommending
18th of December.
or sorry, 18th of August. Great, we're recommending, or unless instructed otherwise, because some of these I have authority to approve under the purchasing policy. Council doesn't, you know, I have sufficient authority. But unless instructed otherwise, we will be proceeding with these projects. So that's my suggestion, so that all of council is informed in terms of, and they're aware of the projects that are on the plate. And I believe this is all of them.
So the paving isn't on there, so that's the strips I talked to Doug about it. All the gravel strips.
Yes, and I believe Blair said that he could cover that off in the, because there'd be sufficient budget. The crack ceiling, I think, was $100,000.
Pushed along with the patches of pavement.
Yeah, so he feels, I think, and again, it'd be better if Blair was here, that could be covered off in that overall appropriation under the crack ceiling. I think that's what he was.
Because there's several streets that they've had to dig up the sewer and needs to be repaired, right?
But that's why I think we would benefit from a little session, so that all councils are on the same page. I'm on the same page. If we missed anything, Blair's here, he can answer these questions. But again, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that, yes, a lot of these haven't started, but we have proposals in place and we're in a position to actually make the awards, right? And get going. And I know that, you know, construction season's short around here, so, you know, we want to get going on. So if there's time in your calendar next week, I would suggest we try to get a session together. And it doesn't have to be a duly constituted, it can just be a, you know, we wouldn't exclude the public. If somebody came and wanted to sit in, the public's more than welcome, but it's not a special meeting asking necessarily for decisions. It's really just to bring you up to speed. So, you know, it's,
What about the WCD thing?
sorry?
We're gonna do this tonight, we're gonna pass this.
Yep. Yes. So that's my report. Maybe this would be the time, if there's is there a motion or availability to have a separate little session next week sometime?
I'm good except for Tuesdays.
Would accept
How about what, next Wednesday, 7 o'clock?
next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Well, next Wednesday, oh, well, next Wednesday at 7, I'm sure I'm free.
Hopefully it's pouring rain.
Let me think. Look at my social calendar. Okay, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Here. Great, all three of you folks can make it.
Would it be committee of the whole?
I don't think we need to do that.
Okay.
You know, I don't think it needs to be, you know, we don't have to have a duly constituted committee about it.
But you're having a meeting of council, so notice has to be given to the public and to the council members.
Yeah. We could post an appropriate notice
Yeah.
on the board. If any member of the public shows up, they're more than welcome to see it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just leave it at that at this point in time.
Well, we've had already too many illegal meetings, so we don't need that go on anymore.
I mean, we can think about that. I suppose it could be a committee of the whole. Anyway, we'll sort that one out, but next Wednesday at 7:30?
Yeah.
Seven.
7, okay.
No, second or not?
Second.
All in favor?
At 7, okay. Who's the mover, sorry? Who moved that
My
motion?
motion. Or seconded. And now you're gonna do the,
Yes, we're into late, are we into late items now?
after that.
Oh, well,
We're right after you, so
late items are, when do we do late items?
we didn't,
Okay, so we should deal with the letter from the Rotary Club
okay?
of Dawson Creek. Basically inviting for the Rotary Fall Fair Parade.
So is anybody interested in that?
Could I make a motion that our staff do something up to represent Poos for the parade?
A float, you mean?
Well, it doesn't have to be a float, you know what I mean?
What's been done in the past?
Well, it's usually, staff, council, decorate something, Les usually decorates something, and then usually I go by myself.
Are you gonna participate, Kenny? in the parade?
Yeah, I will. But I would talk to Les to see, because he might be putting something in for the museum. Before you decided to start hiring, or getting the union staff to be building us our, float or whatever, I would be talking to Les, because if he's going into the museum, or as the museum, we might as well go on there with him.
Is there a seconder to that motion?
I just want to say that, when I was going to get my museum report, the museum was putting a float.
Well, I don't know, because he called me before the meeting, so.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you can ask. So, you can,
Okay, I can certainly talk to him. Is that a motion or you just want to leave it with me?
just leave it with you, so. Okay.
Okay, so we dealt with the Fall Fair Parade. Oh, registration of the UBCM before the OHS.
That's fine, I'll do it. I'll just do it through emails and stuff, talk to, it's fine.
It's a lot of money for a Zoom call.
I think it's the same registration fee for in person.
It is, yeah, and you get more out of it being email.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So would you like us to register, your worship? No?
I will, do it that other ways.
Okay.
Because usually the regional district goes too, so. We'll see if some stuff comes back.
Okay, OH&S man. So, my apologies, this is a late item, and I'm not asking for or expecting you to go through it page by page. Here's where we're at with, and this is referenced in the projects, OH&S Health and Safety Program. The draft manual and policies have been completed. This is the manual, and also including some draft policies at the end. It has been completed and submitted to WorkSafe. Okay, we had 4 orders that were written up. This draft manual and the policies have been submitted to WorkSafe, I understand. We have been issued a notice that we're in compliance with the 4 orders. And we basically paid the invoice. We've been invoiced and paid the company that did this report.
We signed the checks tonight.
Yeah, well, we've been invoiced. As well, an inspection report has been completed, invoiced, and it's been approved. So, you know, my intention with this, because I just saw this before Gary was here on Thursday, and you know, the agenda was prepared. It wasn't on the agenda. I didn't understand that there had been a commitment given, apparently, that this would be taken to council at this particular meeting for ratification. So I was advised of that today, that WorkSafe had been told that this would be taken to the July 21st council meeting. I was not aware of that. This morning I had a conversation with the staff about this and said, look, this is, well, it's, I don't know if I can call it a draft. It says rough copy, do not print, but it has been accepted by WorkSafe, okay? And we are now deemed to be in compliance with the 4 orders. So it has been accepted as well as the policies. But we haven't had an opportunity to go through it, okay, because it's huge. There's a lot of documentation. So I said to the staff this morning, look, first things first, let's take a look at these policies and make sure that, you know, I don't believe that there would be anything hugely problematic that's, you know, contrary to what other policies you currently have. But let's review the policies. Let's see what we can do to you know, quickly review the manual if we can. But let's start with the policies and let's take this to the August meeting of council. But I was advised by the consultant that a commitment had been made to WorkSafe to take this to the July 21st meeting, and that if we didn't, there was a you know, a reasonable risk that we would be subject to a further inspection and a possible fine. So on that basis, I decided that, okay, we better bring it to council, table it tonight, or you know, give it to council tonight. And my recommendation, given the fact that we've been put on notice by the consultant that we are at potential risk of a further visit by WorkSafe and being written up and a potential fine, my recommendation is that you adopt this tonight with the policies, with the qualifier that you know, staff will continue our review of this, and that we will bring forward any inconsistencies, gaps, issues that we may have take issue with. It's an iterative process, right? I mean, once you adopt something like this, at any time you can make changes and amendments, and you just keep bringing them forward, right?
Yeah, I hope so, because that's how
Exactly.
a safety manual would work.
So, you know, I'm not comfortable just sticking to my original thought of bringing this to the August meeting. I'd certainly have a better level of comfort doing it that way. But given that I understand that there's some exposure, there's some risk, I would recommend that we get a motion to adopt these 2 pieces of material, the manual and the policies, with the stipulation and the understanding that staff will review this in more detail and will bring forward any concerns or recommended amendments. There's a couple things that we've already picked up that you know, do concern me, and again, I don't profess to know everything about OH&S, but there's a couple of examples where, for example, there's reference in here that the mayor and the council are the principal contacts for consultants and businesses. Another example, Doug, I don't have that little sheet in front of me. I
It's
can't.
right, it's on top of your package, your O&H package, to your left.
Oh. Yeah, there's a couple of things.
It's right on top of the clipped,
The clip one in there, the OH.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. The safe, one of the policies in here, or one of the stipulations says that the safety rep should report to the mayor and council rather than the CAO. The safety rep really should be reporting to the CAO. That's an operational staff function. Another, and it's just an example. Contractor, staff, visitors should report to the mayor and council. And really, they should be reporting to the CAO or the director of public works, something like that, okay? So that's just a couple of examples. In the grand scheme of things, taken individually, not hugely problematic. But what we wish to do is go through this. I think it is important, although, left to my own devices, I'd like to take a little bit more time on this to go through it in more detail, but I think given the fact that our own consultant is saying that, there's a risk of not moving expeditiously on this, I think we should get it endorsed and adopted
Considering
tonight.
WCB already has a copy of it.
Yes, apparently
So we can pass this one and then we can make our changes to it.
we can. So I would ask that my recommendation would be to adopt both the policies and the draft manual with the stipulation that staff can review this and bring forward any proposed concerns or amendments that they may have with respect to the policies. And that's just a couple of examples. There's a few others.
Can I get a second on that?
A motion?
I'll do the motion.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion?
I'm a little confused here because we have not, as council, seen any documentation from Work BC, how this all come up. What was the
Actually, it was
issues?
brought up at the budget meeting because I got after this over it.
Excuse me, there was some minor discussions, but we were not aware of what the issues were. You know what I mean? I just feel I've been left on the outside. I agree we should pass this thing, but I don't know what instigated all this. Like, I'm not aware of it.
Nobody knows what instigated it. The guy showed up here.
But was there previous interactions? Was there previous letters? Was there, I don't know. Yeah, what happened?
Well, OH&S or WCB is going around from town to town to town. If you correctly remember, last year, Fort St. John got $300 and some odd $1,000 fine.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, it's in the paper. It's on all over Facebook when things like that happen. So, we were hired to do this, or we hired a consultant to do this, the lawyers did, and this is what we come up with. It was sent to the lawyers to be handled.
Okay, I've had my say.
So, you've got second?
Yeah.
All in favor? Anything else, Doug? Or, Don?
Gary.
Gary, Jesus.
It's
Sorry.
okay. No, your worship.
Okay. Doug, do you have anything to add? No? Okay. Councillor Smith's report.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Hebert's report.
Went to the museum meeting, they had their AGM and I have all the notes for that for you guys. And they want to have their harvest tea on September 25th. Their next meeting is August 19th.
I just have one question. How come people, if they want to use the park, have to have liability insurance? Don't we have liability insurance already on it?
I believe we talked about that at the last meeting. We have MIABC insurance, this is general comprehensive liability, for the occurrences or events that happen in the park.
So if these people just go down there
Just like any park,
and they hold their gathering,
yeah.
what's to say we don't know that they're down there and they hold these gatherings and somebody gets hurt?
Well, if it's an organized event, such as, for instance, if you know, the Elks Club or the Rotary Club is having a pancake breakfast, and if we have a requirement that permits be issued for large events, then we would require them to have insurance. But people going down to the park just for family gatherings is, we don't require them to have insurance.
Okay, is there anything that, because it's $500 or $600 for them to get liability insurance to use our park. Is there something that we can get through MIA and then they can purchase it through us?
MIABC does offer what they call riders, where we can add separate groups or events for property maintained and operated by the village on a case-by-case basis, and then we'll be given the premium. So it's not, you don't get carte blanche. You apply, each group through the municipality can apply for a rider for our liability insurance.
So can we put that on the village website if everybody agrees? Because,
Well, we need to contact MIABC first. They are going to have qualifiers
Yeah.
as to who and when. So I'll contact MIABC and get their new criteria. I haven't checked it.
and then we can charge fees for that to get that back, right? That money back,
The rider fee.
the rider fee. So if the rider fee is $150, then it's going to be $150 to use the park.
Correct. So my question is, it's correct if we require groups who want to use the park for large events to apply for a permit from the village.
Okay,
So they require us to have some sort of control and regulations on the use of the park, and then they want to review that. And if it's acceptable, then on a case-by-case basis, they would allow us to have a rider. We'd have to notify them with the dates, specific events, contact people, so it's like a little application they have to
yeah,
fill
I'm
out.
good with that.
So I'll contact MIABC and get the scoop on their current practice.
So you want a motion for that? Thank you. Motion, you have to read that, number 14.
Yeah, and then you didn't have anything? In camera as per section 91A and G of the community charter, that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 91C and I of the community charter.
Is that camera shut off? Can I get a second?
Second.
Just take a couple of minutes, I'll